Hello everyone! It's that time again where I go searching for knitting ideas to decide on a project for me, so I'm going to look at the TV shows that my family owns on DVD. I have a list of 15. Previously I have done The Good Place, so if The Good Place pops up again, sorry, we'll have to choose something else. But that still gives me 14 other choices. So we are going to see what it generates for me. 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Not bad. Number 6 is Star Trek Voyager. Star Trek Voyager is something that I've watched through completely at least once. I feel like I may have tried it more than once, but I didn't get through the rewatches. I'm a very big Trekkie. I love watching a lot of the Star Trek things. Wasn't the biggest fan of some of Voyager's storylines. But I mean, Captain Janeway. It took some time to get used to some of the characters there, but let's see. So now we have to choose the actual episode. Because watching 7 years of Voyager is a commitment. And it's I do want to kind of narrow down which episode. So I know Voyager has 7 seasons. So what season am I picking it from? I'm picking it from season 4. Ooh, we could have the Year from Hell here. I think the Year from Hell is from Voyager. It's basically where it's doom and gloom, and so now let's just do a Google search. How many episodes in Voyager season 4? 26. Okay. We're going to trust the Google here. 26. Going to generate episode 16. So I'm going to go pause, get Voyager 4 episode 16, and find out what episode that is. All right. I got my DVD case that contains season 4. What is episode 16? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, wait. Pray. Spelled as in hunter and prey, and not we're going to pray to God type of pray. And it follows an episode called Hunters, so it seems like it's a continuation? Although, funny enough, I said, is it the Year of Hell? And yeah, there's Year of Hell Part 1, Year of Hell Part 2, earlier in the season. So, yeah, we're going to have to see what comes about, Star Trek-wise, for knitting it. And, part of it is making sure that it's, Voyager-based, because there's at least, 7 other franchises of Star Trek. Am I right about that? 7 other franchises? Original, Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Discovery, Enterprise, Below Decks, Strange New Worlds, which just got released, which I haven't seen yet, but I'm really excited for. Yeah, and then there's the whole Kelvin universe bit from the movies. So at least 9 iterations of Star Trek. I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, the animated series. 10. Okay, so I just watched that Voyager episode, Prey, and I don't have any ideas for what to make. It's like there's lots of Star Trek scenes that could like provide an unusual like thing to make, but that episode wasn't one of them. It was very much a it was very much a dull episode visually. There wasn't it lived more as a philosophical episode. It tackled complex like ways of thinking, which honestly is Star Trek at its strongest. It's when it's tackling a huge mental problem. So, for those of you who may not know about Voyager, what makes Voyager different from other Star Trek series is that most Star Trek series has to deal with the Federation. Most Star Trek series, they're a military ship that is part of what they call Starfleet, and they serve what they call the Federation, which is a group of planets, and it's basically a spatial European Union. And Voyager's different because Voyager was trying to track like a marquee ship, which in Star Trek lore is basically like it's basically like tackling someone who lives in their territories. But it's kind of like a Civil War type of deal. And then Voyager ends up like traveling to the other side of the galaxy where the Federation is not reached, and suddenly they're alone. They're the only Federation ship. So a large part of how they operate is how much of our Federation values do we hold versus how do we survive in this new environment where we do not have the support system. And it's a bit of a tricky thing. In this particular episode, they deal with like three different species at this point that they don't really get along with. One is the Borg. We are at the point of Voyager where they've taken 7 of 9, the human that they have rescued from the Borg. And it seems like, I think this is the first season 7 of 9 is in, if I remember right. So she's still having a hard time adjusting to the crew. She's no longer part of the Borg, but she didn't want to be rescued from the Borg. And then it's like, this was a hard episode to jump into. Like, I don't think it was a continuation from the episode before, but I also, because like the storyline of that episode was contained in that episode, but it did deal with other species that they had previous contact with in other episodes, both very poor contact with both those episodes. One being the Hirogen, and the other being species 8472. I forget. The only reason they know it by that name is 7 of 9 was able to tell them, and that's how the Borg keep track of their species. They number them by how they come across them. And so they're like at different times they're working with how they're like at one point they team up with the Hirogen. At another point, when they realize what's going on, they team up with the other species. Like they're trying to act in the most compassionate way possible, but it's very, very difficult to do. And part of it is Captain Janeway gives 7 of 9 an order. 709 at the end diverts that order. Well, not diverts it, she disobeys it. And in order to save the ship, she transports both the Hirogen and the other species onto one of the Hirogen ships, which is not what Captain Janeway wanted her to do. And it's like, how do you take an abstract concept like loyalty and put it into knitting? Or how do I take, the Hirogen are not a very picturesque species, despite them using paint on their helmets. And the other species is completely computer generated. There's no human behind that. There's no human playing that species, who eventually become complete villains later on. I mean, the Borg are pretty mechanical. That's kind of a hard thing. Although Jerry Ryan wears this amazing jumpsuit thing that covers everything, but still is pretty sexy because it shows her shape. And I mean, I could just do the Voyager uniform, but that's taking the easy route out. We don't like to take the easy route too much around here. I gotta think a little bit more on that episode. Maybe I gotta rewatch it or watch a couple more episodes in the Voyager universe to see if there's something to knit. Because basically it was like a whole sea of dark gray and blue. That was that episode. I don't know what I'm going to do with this one. I think I finally figured out what I'm going to do for Voyager. After watching several more episodes, what I had to think about was what makes Voyager different from other Star Trek series. And the answer is the Doctor. So there's a character in Voyager called the Emergency Medical Hologram. When Voyager's whole story starts, the ship goes through a very terrible crash, and as it gets transported across the galaxy, and as it gets transported, some of the crew members die, including the chief medical officer. So Voyager's medical officer is a hologram. It's not a human being per se, it's a computer program that looks like a human being. And at first, he's like, emergency medical hologram, what's your emergency? But then he has to learn, throughout the series, how to rise above his programming and become a more fully realized character. And part of how he does that is through obtaining a mobile emitter. So it's kind of like a little device that's worn on his arm. And with that device, which on a short picture of that now, with the device on his arm, he's able to travel to more places, because as a hologram, he can only travel to places that have a holographic emitter, kind of like how a projector, it's kind of like a more high-tech projector. So the mobile emitter is basically a piece of technology that allows him to travel around the ship, and that way you can use the Doctor for more storylines because he's no longer contained to just sickbay or the holodecks. So I made myself a little diagram of what the mobile emitter will look like. And I started knitting it, but the mobile emitter is only supposed to be the size of a palm. And right now it's that big, which, I mean, could be big enough for a purse. But I'm actually going to be making this into a bag. I'm not just making a mobile emitter just for a mobile emitter. I think it would be cool to have like a miniature person, like the shape of a mobile emitter, be like big enough to hold a wallet and a phone. But I think this is too big. Or maybe just a phone, who knows. But this is like too big for my purposes. You put this up against my arm, it's like obviously way too big, and I would have to create like a strap, and I really don't want to do that. So it's like, how do I get this smaller, right? I realize I'm using kind of like normal size yarn, and if I want to get smaller, I get thinner yarn. So I found the thinnest gray yarn that I have, and I found the thinnest black yarn that I have. And I think if I switch to these as well as going to a smaller size needles, I'm currently working with the size 6. If I maybe go down to a size 2, I can like shrink the entire thing. It's closer to the actual size that needs to be. So I'm gonna take out what I have right now and then start again. And hopefully it'll be closer to what I want, which, I mean, it's a shame because this was like a really cool yarn that I was looking for an opportunity to use, and this was actually the first chance I had an opportunity, and then it didn't work. But I haven't made any cuts into the yarn yet, so we're still good. I think I recovered the progress that I lost when I had to take it out. Mostly. I still have to start putting on the pattern part of the mobile emitter. I got up to the point where I'm going to put the pattern in, and as you can see, it's smaller than it was. It's still a bit big for my arm, where it's going to be, the armband plan might be a little bit unfeasible, but it's not going to be like honking huge. So I'm going to keep on going with this, especially since I think if I wanted to get to the size that I really had to do, I'd have to get embroidery thread, which now I'm thinking about that, and I'm thinking maybe I should try with embroidery threads, but that might be a tad bit obsessive. I don't want to be terribly obsessive with this. This is supposed to be fun and carefree. Anyway, I've been adding stitches, so now I've got 3, 6, no, I'm counting by 5, so that's 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 49. If I had stopped at where I would have at 47, which apparently is a very important number when it comes to Star Trek. And this yarn is also somewhat old. Part of it is like breaking apart, so I already had to like cut apart for it to be woven in. But yeah, that is the progress of the mobile emitter at the moment. And we'll see how far it goes. Alright, so for you folks watching at home, this is literally happening right after the last segment that you watched. But for me, it's been a hot minute. So I've made a lot of progress on the mobile emitter. Like, the bag itself is completed. I put in the zipper and I wove in the ends and whatnot. And, ooh, that part, that's the first time I actually, like, opened it like that. So I'm realizing this maybe should be sewn here to be a little bit less annoying. I thought that was just going to take care of itself, but apparently not. But right now what I'm doing is, I mean, right now it's just like a pouch. It's not really attached to anything, and part of the appeal of the mobile emitter is you just like clip it. Even though it's way too big for my arm, it's probably going to be like down on my waist. I'm currently making a strap, which I would say is a third to halfway done. And I'm probably going to sew the strap across the back right here. I'm thinking like closer up to the zipper. So this is a lot less likely to bend down like this. But also using as much of the pouch itself as possible. So that way we get as much support. So, because if I were to hold it up here, then the weight of whatever I put in here will only be on a very limited part of the strap, and that will cause it to warp more, and we don't really want that. We're trying to spread out whatever I'm going to fit into here over a larger area. So there's less stress on it, because I already know from the way that I'm knitting the strap and also from what I'm using as the secure fastener for the strap that it's not going to be all that strong. So there's a chance that, like, this is big enough to hold my wallet and my phone. There's a chance that it's going to end up warping it anyway. So yeah, that's the progress on the mobile emitter there. I'll check back in when it's done, I believe will be the next step. Yeah, when it's done. I have finally finished the mobile emitter. So do I need to sew? I got the little pocket here. I attached the strap to the bag, so I can just put it around like this. And like as the doctor says in the episode in which he gets it, I am now footloose and fancy free. I can walk around and store things in here. Like, if I just don't have enough yarn on me, I can put yarn in the mobile emitter. Just like that. Oh. In reality, I was thinking more phone and wallet in this case. It's a bit big, but I could just wear this to like a con. Not that I've ever been to a Star Trek con, but hey, never say never. Could happen in the future. But that was our inspiration from Voyager. So we'll have to see which TV show I'm going to be doing next. Anyway, that was today's entertainment. Have a nice day. And a closer shot in case I didn't catch it on the screen.